Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Rachel and it's time for another week of What's for Dinner. We're starting off on Sunday with crock-pot potato soup. First, here is the what, as in what ingredients did I use. And now let's get to the how. How did it come together? So I started with a couple boxes of chicken stock. I have my crock pot preheating and I'm using 2 boxes. You can do more cream or less if you want. Some people use water. I don't know. Do what you like. I'm using a half of this container of half and half. I have some dairy issues, so I tend to keep it a little on the lower side for my dairy content. I'm also adding some minced garlic because I just want some extra chunks of garlic in my soup. And then I'm adding a nice little handful of house seasoning that I made up myself, and I just shared the ingredients for that. And then I got busy chopping up some onions and some potatoes in my food chopper. I'm using a very large Vidalia onion. This lended a very nice sweet flavor to this potato soup, which I thought was really delicious. Once my onion was all chopped up, I just added it into that broth mixture. And this looks almost good enough to eat already. Next, I got busy getting those potatoes chopped up into bite-sized pieces. I'm just using my chopper again to get these diced up pieces. So it depends on how you slice your potatoes and what size diced pieces you get. So I did end up with some smaller and some longer that were more like French fry shape, but I didn't care. It was all right. The sizes weren't too drastic, so it didn't make much of a difference. See what I mean? I used somewhere between 6 and 8 large russet potatoes. And after I got these potatoes added, I just did it again. I just did it off camera this time until I had all of my potatoes cut up. Next, I got busy cutting up the Polish sausage, and I'm using 2 packages because we have pickers and tasters in our house, and somebody's always getting into the pot and helping themselves to the smoked sausage whenever I use it. So I like to add extra just so that when people are sampling, I still have some left for the recipe. Now, while that soup is doing its thing, I got this Gouda and pimento cheese spread out of the refrigerator. We had been snacking on this for quite some time and it was like getting neglected, so I figured I needed to use it up for something so that last little bit didn't go to waste. I had some jalapenos in my freezer, so I just got them out and took out the seeds and then just started cutting them up into teeny tiny pieces and adding them right into the container of cheese. And I just made sure that they were super fine, and these peppers were hot. I don't know what happened in the freezer, but they seemed hotter than they did when we picked them out of the garden. I also just got my French bread cut in half. This was also in our freezer. I had bought like maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 of these and just froze them at that time and just have, use them here and there for garlic toast or whatever. So I am just going to put some butter on this, and then I'm just going to sprinkle some garlic powder on top of each piece. And on one side, I'm going to use my jalapeno cheese spread. And then on the other, I'll just leave plain and use some garlic and butter only. I know not everyone will want the pepper bread. And in less than a minute, this is what happened to the container, and I could have edited that out, but I decided to leave it. So I just ended up mixing in some bacon bits into this cheese and jalapeno spread, and I'm just going to just start spreading that on one piece of the garlic bread. This is real life. Sometimes we melt things or burn things, or just thoroughly mess things up in some way. But since the container didn't melt all the way through, I decided to go ahead and continue on. This bread is good to go in the oven at 350. The potatoes are now all cooked, and this potato soup is smelling so good, but I needed to thicken it up somehow. Now, sometimes I use flour, and sometimes I take some potatoes out and mash them up and then add it back, or just use the immersion blender and mash up some of those potatoes. But I had some instant potatoes on hand, and that is actually what I use most of the time if I have them. And I just used as many instant mashed potatoes as it took to get it to the thickness that I liked. And then, of course, I always feel like everything needs more black pepper. This potato soup was so thick and hearty. It was absolutely delicious. Sometimes I will make potato soup with ham, sometimes with bacon, and sometimes just like this with smoked sausage. And this cheese bread was so delicious and so easy to make to go alongside. I just topped my bowl of soup with some more shredded cheese. I mean, can you really ever have enough cheese? There are some weeks that Monday hits me like a Mack truck, and this was one of them. But luckily, when I came home from work and I walked in the door, I smelled delicious spaghetti cooking. My husband was cooking dinner. What a surprise. And he did really well. He would not tell me what he put in his spaghetti, but it was very robust and it was really good. And I really enjoyed it. I always enjoy when someone else cooks for me. I always say my love language is food. Just the gesture of cooking a meal for somebody is like giving them a hug, and I so appreciated this on this Monday. Tuesday is my late night at work, and I did not plan a thing. I don't know if it was the time change or what, but I just was not able to get my act together and cook anything ahead of time. But my husband and sons had Mexican takeout, and they were considerate enough to bring me a couple of tamales home, and I was able to have those when I got home from work. There was one beef and one chicken. I didn't even bother to have anything alongside of them. These were enough for a late night dinner, and I just ate my tamales and took myself to bed. On Wednesday, I was working on a project around the house, and I knew I wanted something that was going to be really easy and simple. So I had some ground beef on hand that needed to be cooked up. So I got busy getting that all browned and broken up into smaller chunks. And then I just decided I was going to make some sloppy joes. I just really needed to get some ingredients in the house. And so I have my tomato sauce that I made over the summer from my garden tomatoes in my freezer. I just grabbed a bag of those. When I froze them flat so that it would be easy to thaw them out right in a pan. I had drained my meat and used the pan to kind of thaw out that sauce. And then I added the meat back to the pan on top of that tomato puree. On another pan, I have these Ore-Ida fast food fries ready to go into the oven. It couldn't get any easier than this. I just worked on getting that tomato sauce thawed out and cooked through with my meat. And then I began adding my ingredients, which are super simple. I just add some crushed red pepper. And then I added a few tablespoons, like heaping tablespoons of brown sugar. And then I came back in with my house seasoning. So this has garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper. I know it looks like it's a lot, but it actually isn't that much when you consider you would use a couple tablespoons of this, a tablespoon of that, and this is just all mixed together. So anyway, I just got this all seasoned up, and I would normally use some mustard, and I would also use some Worcestershire sauce, but I didn't have any, so I did go back in with some ketchup just to get a little bit of that tang and also to thicken up my sauce. I decided to leave out the mustard this time because I was just having some heartburn on this day too. I was feeling a little hard on myself, and I kept criticizing myself for not wanting to cut up an onion or a green pepper for the sloppy joes, but you know what? They turned out just fine. These were absolutely delicious without the chopped up veggies in them. I had no complaints from my family. They loved these, and once again, I made so much that I was able to freeze some for another day, and I now have a meal for a day that I don't feel like cooking. And these fries were a lovely surprise because they were actually pretty good. I usually don't care for frozen French fries, but these were pretty good. And of course I had to have some ketchup alongside of my fries, probably more ketchup than I have fries, but that's just how I roll. I was able to work on my painting project in my house, so this was a super easy and quick meal. On Thursday, I really felt like I wanted to cook dinner, but then at the same time didn't. So I went to Sam's Club and I grabbed this big salad, some chicken salad, some croissants, and called it good enough. So this is actually a no-cook meal, but you know, we all enjoyed it, and sometimes it's okay just to have a sandwich and a salad. I wasn't really feeling like I was super hungry on this night, and I didn't want to have a real heavy meal like meat or potatoes, you know, like we usually do. So anyway, having a sandwich for a change was a nice switch. And there's not much to share here. I mean, I just put my chicken salad in between my croissant and then made a salad. But I have to say that that was actually a very delicious salad. The boys heated up some Tyson chicken strips and then had those on top of their salad.
Friday was Veterans Day and it was a paid holiday for me, so I didn't have to work, which gave me extra time to do some cooking. I got a new crock pot. It was part of a Black Friday sale at Walmart, and I really like the way the lid just kind of connected to the back there, and so I just had to have it. I am going to put the this pork loin into my crock pot with the liner just for easy cleanup. I sprinkled on some of my house seasoning, and then I just used a bottle of this Asian style spicy, sweet and spicy wing sauce. I really like the size of this crock pot. It's smaller than the one that I have and bigger than the other one that I have, if that makes any sense. So anyway, I just squeezed the pork loin into it, and here I am just kind of messing with that lid. I didn't realize that it stayed attached when you weren't using it, but I figure it out. And I like that this one is programmable as well. I'm also going to make some dressing. So I'm starting off by putting my roasting pan on the burner, and I've got it turned down on low. I'm just going to brown up this hot, spicy sausage. I don't normally make my dressing like this, but I decided to just use one pan this time instead of several. Normally, I would use a pan to saute the vegetables and a pan to brown my sausage. But I'm just trying to save a few steps because who likes to wash dishes? I don't have a dishwasher. We are the dishwasher. Next, I'm just chopping up my celery. I decided to do the whole bunch of celery. That way I have it all ready for actual Thanksgiving Day. And the reason that I'm making dressing on this day is because we are not hosting Thanksgiving, but I wanted to make sure that our Thanksgiving favorites get made every day, or every week in November, just so that we get to have all of our family favorites. We'll be bringing passing dishes to our Thanksgiving dinner with the family, but like I said, I won't get to make everything that I normally do. I'll be making a much smaller Thanksgiving meal for us here at home. You know, you have to have those leftovers. I've got my onions and my celery all chopped up in my gallon-sized freezer bag, and these are just going to go in the freezer until actual Thanksgiving Day. That way I've already got that step done, and anything that I decide I need celery and onions for, I can just grab my bag and just pop some in. And I'm just sauteing my onions and celery with that sausage. And here I'm getting some olive oil into a baking dish. I'm going to cook some little red potatoes. And again, I'm just going to roll them around in that olive oil and season them with my house seasoning. I made this up just so that it would be quicker and handy when I needed the usual seasonings that I pretty much use in everything, which is garlic powder, onion powder, and salt and pepper. Next to my dressing, now that my meat and veggies are all cooked up, I'm just adding a can of cream of chicken soup, cream of mushroom soup, and cream of celery soup. On the side there, you can see I have my small cast iron with a Jiffy mix cornbread in it. And what I will be doing is using a box of stovetop and a Jiffy cornbread to make my dressing. And so here I am just crumbling up that cornbread into my soup, sausage, and veggie mixture. This dressing recipe was handed down to me from my friend Linda, and she got it from her mom, and then I made some shortcuts to it because that's just what I do. Obviously, she used cornbread, and she used 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 different spices and some breadcrumbs, but I just use a box of dressing, and that way it has all the seasonings in it. And then I'm just soaking it all down with some chicken broth, and you want it to look like mushy oatmeal. So Also, we can add boiled eggs if we want, and generally I do, but I just didn't feel like it on this day. And next I am just making a topping for those potatoes. I melted some butter, I added a teaspoon of garlic, minced garlic, and then I just added some Parmesan cheese. And I didn't measure it, I just used my eyes, and when it looked like it was a nice thick consistency, I just stirred it all together, and then I'll just pour that right on top of my potatoes after they have baked. Once they are tender and I can get them smashed up somewhat, then I will pour my topping on and pop them back in the oven. I am using my meat masher because apparently I donated my potato masher. Maybe it's still around here in the box because I haven't dropped it off. I'll have to look and see because I might need that back. Do you ever do that? Think you're ready to let something go and then you're like, oh wait, I needed that. But this meat masher did work just fine to pierce these potatoes and get them kind of smashed up. That way that butter and seasoning will just kind of ooze into those potatoes and make them super yummy. I was shopping at Meijer just that morning and I saw these little pies and I was intrigued by them. On my Pinterest board, I have several pie boards pinned, and you know, like I said before, we always have all these intentions, things we want to do for the holidays, and we don't always get to them all, and making a pie board was one for me. And I have to be honest, the thought of baking a bunch of little mini pies just sounded kind of daunting to me. So when I saw these little pies at the store for $1, they were on sale for $1 each. So I thought, yeah, I will just do this for fun for us. So I picked up a couple of each flavor and brought them home, and I just unboxed them and I'm getting them ready to go on my plate. And originally I had asked my husband to pick up some whipped cream on his way home from the store, and he brought me sour cream, but that's all right. Mistakes happen, and we aren't really big whipped cream eaters anyway. It was just to look pretty on the pie board. So you'll see that I start off with this little dish in the center for the whipped cream, and then I end up taking it away because we didn't have it. After I played around with the arrangement of the little pies and got them where I wanted them and kind of sorted out the apple from the blueberry. By the way, there's 2 apples, 2 blueberries, 2 pecan pies, and 2 chocolate eclair. I then just added some grapes and some orange slices. Normally for Thanksgiving, I would make several large full-size pies for Thanksgiving, but I think this way, having a little taste of pie before Thanksgiving, kind of a pre-pie season, I will just stick to making pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving Day. But this way, we got to sample a little of each of our favorites. And our potatoes are coming out of the oven. They were so delicious. This dressing is ready to go as well. And that pork was nice and tender. I just used a fork and kind of shredded it up. This sauce was spicy. I almost thought it was too spicy for me, but it was so delicious and flavorful. And here is my plate. I know everything kind of looks like it's the same color, but it all tasted different and had its own unique flavor. On Saturday, the boys both had things to do, so Bill and I just gathered up our leftovers and made dinner out of that. That's it for this week, friends. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out what we had for dinner. If you had fun here today, please make sure to hit the subscribe button on your way out. Bye for now.